It's the Takeover. It's the Takeover right here on CBJ Radio. We're always bringing you the coolest artists on Wednesday nights, and tonight's no different. New Jersey instrumental rocker Steve Bello. He just released his 9th album called Act Natural, and he's already dropped 2 singles. His current single is called Walk Through Lightning. The album comes off the heels of his best-selling CD to date, which we had him on the show to talk about mood swings before, and he's back. We're excited to have Steve on the show. First, Steve, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man. It's been quite some time. It feels good. It feels really good.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the album, but first, it seems like ever since you released Smash the Past in 2020, things have taken off for you. What do you think it's been?
I never looked at it like that, to be really honest. During the lockdowns, like everybody else, you couldn't really do much. So I found a couple of old demos, and I just said, I'm just going to release them for fun. What the heck, As then when mood swings, that's when things started taking off. And I started writing music for what became Act Natural. So in a way, I guess you're right. Things just seem to be moving and grooving. But at the same time, I thought, wow, things are kind of slow.
Yeah. Everything's perspective. Well, and also you've gotten some International Singer-Songwriters Association and some indie love in the last couple of years.
Yes, I did. Yes, absolutely.
Up for nominations, awards. I think you won Instrumental Artist 1 month. That has to feel nice.
And yeah, I was genuinely pleasantly surprised. I mean, I saw that, and I looked at the list of the nominees, and I thought, okay, I'm on there. That's cool. And just as I always say, being nominated is a win.
Yeah.
I understand the kind of music I do is quirky. It's really not for everybody, but those who hear it, I think walk away from it, go, wow, there's actually some pretty cool stuff on here. It's quirky. It's a challenge to listen to, but it's, maybe I'm biased on my own stuff, but it's good stuff. People dig it.
Yeah, and I think every listen, you catch something else, or, it just keeps growing on you, too. Mike and Brian from Attacker, how much do these guys help you? I know Mike helped you a lot when mood swings, because he kind of put you in a different direction.
Well, yes, he did. But at the same time, he was only supposed to produce and engineer mood swings. I had a different drummer and a different bass player. It just wasn't working out. And he said, look, send me the songs. Let's see what I could do with them. And he comes from a speed metal, thrash metal, traditional old school metal world, which I love the music. But what I do combines that with the funk, with the jazz, with whatever. So for both of us, it was a challenge. Like, he was in my world and I was in his world. With Act Natural, I was going to play bass on the album like last time. And then I said to Mike, you think Brian would be interested? Because, he played 2 shows with us, so they sounded killer. And at first Brian said, well, it was cool. I'm really not a 5-string guy. I really appreciate it. And then he says, hey, can I borrow your 5-string? I said, yeah, sure. I'm not using it. And then a week later, he says, I ordered a brand new one online. I was like, okay. And that was it. And we just went to town.
Yeah, because I know you've done bass on every album. Was it weird not playing bass on this one?
Well, not every album. I played bass on 3. It was more out of necessity. It's more out of necessity than anything else. I mean, I'm not Geddy Lee. I'm not Billy Sheehan.
Yeah.
I just get the job done. When I have a real bass player like Brian, I mean, he's got an incredible attack. He's got fast fingers. He's got great tone. He comes from that Geezer Butler school of just mashing every note like it owes you money. And, even with a song like Empty Galaxy where he lays back, there's still that dynamic of he really digs in. And that shapes, the songs where there were parts of the album where I'm like, okay, I like what he's doing. I'm going to change my guitar part so that he stands out a little more.
Oh, wow.
And I would pull, I know, weird for a guitarist to say that, but, as an example, the song Neurotic Bliss, I wrote a really heavy guitar part for the breakdown where there's, T.C. Tolliver does the jungle beat, I call it. Brian played my guitar riff on bass, and I went, yeah, you know what? I want to do something different. So I did this really jazzy, funky thing, and it totally opened everything up. So, Mike definitely pushed me in another direction. Brian definitely pushed me in another direction. But I still think my vision is strong. I still feel like, I wrote these songs, but Mike and Brian and TC, to be fair, brought them to life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, with the success of Mood Swings, did we record Act Natural the same place? Did we mix things up?
Yes. Well, we recorded at Band Mother. We did everything. The only thing that changed was, TC playing drums on 1, 2, and that's a first. I've never had two drummers on an album. Brian playing bass on it. And, the last album, Mike had his friend John Hanneman help with engineering, so Mike could focus on playing the drums instead of running back and forth between the drums and the mixing board and the drums and the mixing board. So he brought his friend CJ from the metal band Blood Feast to be what John was, because John moved to Florida. So CJ sat at the board so Mike could play the drums. So there was definitely a lot of hands on board. Definitely a lot of, just like I said, just a lot of hands on board. And it really made, light work, if you will.
Yeah. And boy, Joe Lambert, this guy did amazing work mastering this album.
Oh, man. Oh, my God. I went to a studio with Mike a couple of Fridays ago. And, he's got a really nice house up in Peekskill. And the room where we did the mastering in, you look at it, you're like, wow, there's some really cool stuff. But there's not a ton of stuff. But what he did, he would I sat behind him, and he popped on the first song, and he told Mike and he said, I did not listen to this album. Well, he mixed Act Natural so I could make a video for that. But he didn't listen to the rest of the album. He wanted me and Mike to be there so that we could see his, natural, no pun intended, reaction to the songs. And he popped on the song, I think it was Walk Through Lightning. And he jumped out of his chair and he reached for a button. And he goes, I love this stuff. Oh my God, I love Guitar Wizard music. And I love Steve Vai. I love Yngwie Malmsteen. We started talking about Richie Blackmore, and we started talking about Jeff Beck. And, so it was very just open, atmospheric, and seeing his enthusiasm. And he worked with Cheap Trick. He worked with Zakk Wylde. You can see his credits. They speak for themselves. So the fact that he was like, I couldn't wait to sink my teeth into this album, that really meant a lot to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're chatting with Steve Bello. Go check him out, stevebellomusic.com. He's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. His brand new album, Act Natural, is out now. Well, the second single, Walk Through Lightning, this is a cool story. Well, and you go for walks all the time. If you go follow Steve online, he posts pictures where he's at in New Jersey. Tell us about how you got this title, because you've been holding on to this title for a while.
I had the title, I think it was 2016.
Yeah.
And I do my walks. And of course, I'm about a mile from my house. And I see the skies get very gray. And I thought, well, I better start heading home. And it starts pouring. And I'm like, okay, I look like a drowned rat. Fine. All of a sudden, I see lightning right in front of me. And I didn't own a phone at the time. I didn't have my camera. I probably would have been electrocuted anyway. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm walking through this lightning field or whatever you want to call it. It was insane. I got home and I wrote down Walk Through Lightning. And I never had music for it. And then a few months ago, I came up with this riff, and I had another riff, and I went, this is Walk Through Lightning. It just fits. It's the fastest song I've ever written. Mike said it reminded him of Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica because it's just pure aggression.
Yeah. Well, and being an instrumental artist, how hard is it to come up with the song titles? Or, do you have some of them like this one, or do you do it on the fly? How does it work?
A lot of my song titles actually come out of conversations. Some come out of life experiences. You can ask me about any song title, and I guarantee I have a weird story for you. But yeah, that's just how I am. But I get that asked all the time, which is cool. If you have instrumental music, why is there a title? Do you need a title? How do you come up with a title? And I'm basically telling a story just without vocals. Yeah. So if you can hear a song of mine and go, well, I think this is what you mean. Okay. You're painting a different picture than I did, and that's totally cool.
Yeah. Well, Unraveled, that it fits.
Yes. Yes.
Well, in Act Natural, Unraveled, when you listen to it, it's track 3 on the album. But did you do this on purpose? This album flows. This it could almost be like one track, Steve. This album is put together amazing.
Thank you. I'm very good at arranging.
Yeah, you are. I'm
very good at arranging. I will admit one thing, though. I wanted Empty Galaxy earlier on the album, like
Oh.
3 rockers, and then a ballad. It's a ballad. It's more like a psychedelic kind of thing. And Mike said, no, that should be the last song. And I admit we kind of went back and forth, like, no, it should be here, it should be here, it should be here. So I got home and I listened to the rough demos and I put them in order and I went, okay, he's right.
Yeah.
So he's the reason why Empty Galaxy is the last song. But I always make sure, like you said, I've heard this with every album, there's a flow, there's a line, there's continuity. It's, there's some strange stuff going on, but it all ties together in my own strange world. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of your strange world, you threw everybody a curveball with the Act Natural music video. I mean, you got you got a lot of positive feedback, but some people thought, well, this is just weird.
Which is bizarre because if you watch Tool's videos,
well, yeah, I mean,
obviously Tool's. I mean, I love Tool. They're obviously way out there. Same thing with like Mr. Bungle.
Yeah.
And like those kind of bands. I felt my video was pretty tame compared to it. I think it's because no one got the theme behind all the videos, the little vignettes, if you will, that everybody in the video were acting natural. And then people went, oh, now we get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not a Motley Crue video where you see 4 guys get off a plane with hot chicks. I mean, there's a story, it's
yeah, you got to think a little bit. That's the whole thing.
Unfortunately, I think, and I don't think people are stupid by any means, but they don't want to think. They just want to pop on a song and, in the words of Richie Blackmore, boogie down. So,
yeah, for sure. Did that make you change your thought process when you did Walk Through Lightning in the video?
I'll be honest. I should have released Walk Through first. I admit that. So it was a lesson learned. When I heard what Joe did for the song Act Natural, I went, this has to be the first single. And Mike and Brian said, yeah, sure. I made the video and they were like, okay, it's quirky, it's funky, but let's do it. I put it out and I got positive feedback, but some people were like, I don't get it. Man, that's really strange. Wow. I don't know what to think of it. And I'm like, dude, if you don't get the premise of the video, there's nothing I don't want to over explain it. So I really thought about it, and I talked to Mike and Brian, and I said I should have waited for Joe to finish the rest of the album. I should have released Walk Through Lightning because Lenny Kravitz does that. He'll release his most accessible song first, get you roped in, and then the rest of the album, you're like, wow, the rest of the album is better than the single.
Yeah.
I do think every song is strong in their own merits. Act Natural, looking back, I mean, I'm proud of the song. It was definitely a little too quirky. The video made it quirkier than the song should have been. Walk Through Lightning, I just said, you know what? I admit defeat. I admit I made a mistake. Okay, this is, I'm not patronizing. I'm not pandering, but I'm still going to make the video that I want to make. And here you go. And now I got more pre-orders as a result because it's a song people identify with. It's the truth.
And just like you say, it has the Metallica feel, Priest feel. People are more familiar with it, or I guess it resonates more, or is easier to take in. Or you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. But Act Natural, the song, my friends that listen to progressive music and thrash metal and jazz, they're like, where did you come up with that? And I'm like, dude, you listen to, I humbly compare it to Living Color. There's definitely, obviously there's an obvious Deep Purple kind of a thing going on, even with Walk Through Lightning. Yeah.
And my musicians friends are just like, we don't get it. Why is this so bizarre? And I'm like, because it is.
Because that's Steve Bello. Come on, go check him out. SteveBellomusic.com. He's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The brand new album, Act Natural, is out now. Well, TC Tolliver, he plays for what, Plasmatics? How did you know him? How did this come about?
Oh, well, he was in the Plasmatics. They reformed a few years ago with the singer from the Runaways. What's her name? Sherry Currie. Because Wendy Williams is sadly no longer with us. My wife and I, we saw T.M. Stevens perform. This was in 1993, and he had a different drummer at the time. He had Steve Morse's drummer, Van Romain. So my wife and I went to see T.M. play. He played bass with Steve Vai and all those cats. And I see this guy. He looked like a mix of Judas Priest meets Prince. He had all leather on, stiletto heels. whacked out hair. And I'm like, who's that guy? And he just introduces me because I'm TC Tolliver. I'm TM's new drummer. I was like, oh, dude, nice to meet you. He gets behind the kid. He's playing double bass with stiletto heels. And he's just going, dugga, 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 dugga. And my wife and I and everybody were like, holy crap. And TM goes, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plasmatics, TC Tolliver. I'm like, he was in the Plasmatics? I'd never heard any Plasmatic songs. I only knew them. To me, Plasmatics were like the Misfits. You know their image more than their music.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he was in the Plasmatics? and we just struck up a friendship. And, you know, we'd see each other and hang out. And then back in 2012, I had my chance to open for Uli John Roth and Leslie West at Starland Ballroom in Sayreville. And the drummer I had at the time, he bailed. So I called TM. I said, can I borrow TC for the gig? I'll put you and your girlfriend on the guest list. I'll do whatever. And he goes, no, dude, it's cool. So that's how TC played with my music. And then TC and I played with TM in 2012 and 2014. We toured Germany. And last summer, Mike said, hey, I want to meet TC. I was like, okay. So he was playing in a cover band. And we were talking, and Mike says, I think TC should be on your next album. And I admit at first, I was like, I don't know if he'll do it. I don't know. And then he was just like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, geez, okay. And just the one song. You know, and he came up, you know, the day after Valentine's Day this year, and we banged out the song.
Yeah. Well, and you said it. He's on Neurotic Bliss when you check out the album.
Yes.
But yeah, well, I mean, it works. You don't miss a beat, or he doesn't miss a beat at all.
No.
With the album, live shows. You were playing some live shows. You were playing with a cover band for a while. Are Mike and Brian going to do some live shows? What's coming up?
Well, I know they're going to be busy doing their own album with Attacker. I think they're starting in the well, it is September. It's technically not fall yet, but I know they'll be starting in the fall. I would like to do at least one show this year before the year is up. I'd like to do at least one show next year. Playing live, you know, I think honestly for me personally, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I think the ship sailed, you know, but when I'm on stage, I feel like I don't want to be anywhere else but here. But then when I'm not performing, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm not performing. You know, I'm not stressing about you got to be here this time and did you sell this many tickets and get on stage in 3 minutes and then you got to get off. That's not why I like performing. That's just not conducive to being an artist. So the less I do, the better, to be really honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last time we had you on though, Steve, you shit on having live shows and then you went out and did a couple of them. So, and it seemed like you loved it, but yeah, and then you did the cover band stuff for a little while and it seemed like you enjoyed that. But yeah, I get it though. It's a pain in the ass, especially at this point in life.
Well, it's attractive. You know, it's the thing with my band. You know, the first show I did with us was last March for a benefit concert for my friend Irene.
Yeah.
And I was approached privately. The promoter of the club, Dingbat, she said, I'm asking you first because you're friends with her. We're all friends with her. Will you play this benefit? I said, absolutely. And that was it. And then we were asked to play Metal Fest 7, you know, a few months later. And you know, so I said, you know what? We did 2 killer shows. I'm leaving it alone. I don't, because with my luck, if I did a 3rd show and it sucked, I'd be like, I don't want to know anybody. We did 2 great shows. The cover bands, it was fun, but it's just ultimately unsatisfying because while it's nice to make money and you do play to big crowds, I go home thinking you're not cheering for me. You're cheering for Lit or you're cheering
for whatever else,
you know, Buck Cherry or whatever. Yeah. It's, you know, but once in a while, like there's a cover band, Supernova, that if they need me to fill in, I'm there because they're good guys, they're good players, they're very professional, and we never rehearse because A, there's no time, and B, we're all polished musicians. And the last gig I did with them, they yelled out, "You know, Master of Puppets?" I'm like, "Yeah, we played Master of Puppets with no rehearsal," and the crowd went nuts.
Wow.
You know, like who else does that?
Yeah, no, and not too many people can pull that off. That's impressive. Well, Act Natural, you can get it now digitally, but you do have hard copies coming. So if you're old school, you can still get a hard copy. You can go and pre-order it, and then Steve will send you the download link, and you can download it and then get your hard copy. Do we have a date? I know it's like from September something to October something. Are we getting closer or what?
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that, because yesterday I got a text from Angela at Disc Makers, and now everything's being moved up.
Oh.
So between September 16th, I think, and September 22nd, I should get them.
Okay.
Give or take. You know, so they could be the 23rd, and then I'll be like, you said the 22nd. So
yeah. So keep following him. Go follow him. Go check him out. SteveBellomusic.com. So what's next? We're gonna have a third single. We holding on? Or what are we gonna do?
There's a third. I'm not sure which one yet, but there's definitely a third single on the horizon. We'll probably release it the day I make the announcement that the CDs are in my hands. You know, we're still toying with what's going to be the third single. I'm just glad that, you know, to be honest, I mean, even though the song Act Natural was met with kind of a lukewarm reception, Walk Through Lightning was one that kicked the door down. Everybody says, okay, now we're going to order. So that was good.
Yeah. Well, and when you listen to the whole thing, you're going to be satisfied. I'm telling you that right now. So wait until you hear all of Act Natural. Linus, your cat, you said it. This is not Linus on the cover.
No, it's not. It's not. He was, you know, bartering for treats and royalties, and you know, so I found that picture on a site called postermywall.com, and I had the title before I saw the picture, and I'm like, this picture's perfect, and I used it.
Yeah. There, it works. Yeah, with the cat staring down the goldfish.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in Wyoming. We have deer everywhere. I can't believe how much deer is in New Jersey.
Interesting turn of conversation. Yeah, I think it's because a lot of forests and whatever you call it, like wildlife, are being mowed down for condos and malls. So these deer have nowhere to go. You know, they'll hang out on our lawn. I'll go for walks. You know, in the beginning, the deer used to run away, and now they're like, this guy's cool, man. We'll pose for pictures. But, you know, everybody's complaining, you know, the deer are taking over. I'm like, no, they were here first. We just happen to live here.
Well, exactly. We're taking over their territory. They got plenty of room to roam here. They hang out in town because there's a lot more food. In town. And then Pinky, your 7-string guitar. Tell us the story of this thing. You've had this thing for like ever. You sent it into Ibanez. Now it's awesome. Tell us this.
All righty. Well, the back history is when I used to work at a music store 100 years ago. We had this particular guitar on the wall. It's a 1999 model, and it sat there for 2 years. Nobody would buy it because it looked too 80s. That was their attitude. It plays nice, but it's too 80s, man. This belongs with Poison. So I figured I'll buy it. So I got a very good discount through, you know, the store I worked at, and I brought it home. And at the time, my oldest son was 4, and Emma was 2. My wife was pregnant with Julian at the time, so he wasn't here yet. Emma looked at the guitar and she yelled out, "Pinky." That's Pinky. Okay, the guitar's Pinky. That's her name. That's it. Set for life. Pinky. I've had the guitar since January 2001. Back in 2021, I visit Ibanez every 2 years to get a free setup. And I brought the guitar down, and the tech Mike, he's done work for Steve Vai, John Petrucci, Tony McAlpine, and all those guys. He saw my guitar. He goes, "Look, you probably can't do this now, and I don't have the time. But these frets need a lot of love. I could tell this guitar is loved. I could tell this guitar is beat to crap." So 2 years later, you know, obviously I brought the guitar down, and he says, "If you leave me this guitar for about 3 weeks, I'll have it factory fresh." And it's unbelievable. It plays like I took it out of the box.
Wow. And it's got orange strings.
Yes, that's a new string company I've been endorsing since July called Aurora out in Connecticut.
Yeah. I mean, you're with orange amplifiers, Ibanez guitars. Yes. You got the strings. You've got the chords. Can you believe it that you got all these endorsements?
I can't believe it because I still think about how I got my Ibanez deal, and I'm like, I'm the last person in the world to get one. I you know, how that happened. I still have people ask me to this day, how the heck did you get that? And even the guys at Ibanez, they were like, tell us the story again. So I won't bore you to death with it, but I tell them the story. And they're like, you are the luckiest person in the world. I said, I am. I don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Next month will be 20 years with them.
Wow.
Yeah, and next year will be 10 with Orange.
Yeah, man.
And I look at my gear. I'm in my basement. I'm looking at the gear around me, and I think I am the luckiest prick alive. I don't deserve this stuff. I don't. A lot of musicians think they deserve it, and I look at it like, you know what? I worked for this. I earned this. I cast the net, and the worst that could happen is somebody would say, "Now we're not interested." But fortunately, people that I've talked to, like Aurora Strings, Amp Turco Cables, that's my new cable, the new cables that I'm using for about a year. These people were so receptive, like, we would love to have you. And great, let's work some magic. And that's what happens.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and it's nice to feel loved by the sponsor.
It does.
So that's for sure. Go and check him out. Act Natural, his brand new album, his 9th album is out now. The single Walk Through Lightning. You're going to hear it right now. Steve, thanks so much for coming back on, buddy.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.
It's Steve Bello. It's Walk Through Lightning. It's the Takeover. CBJRadio.com.